Hi, volleyball fans, and welcome back to Volley Talk, the podcast created for volleyball lovers who want to dig deep into what is going on in NCAA and international volleyball. I'm your host, Sarah Pavin. I'm an Olympian, beach volleyball world champion, former Nebraska Cornhusker, and longtime pro, both indoor and on the beach.
And I'm Adam Schultz, former indoor player, international volleyball coach, and the show's resident stat guy.
Women's VNL is officially over. Italy got that repeat. Okay. They now have a world record 29 consecutive wins.
Super impressive.
Maybe people will disagree with this, but I thought that they looked pretty untouchable as they cruised through finals week this week. Their matches, generally straightforward, but there were some very exciting matches mixed in there this week. So today it is all about women's VNL Final 8, and we are very excited to talk about what went down in Poland. So let's get started. Shockingly, but maybe not so shockingly because the same thing happened last week, the summer seems a little slow. So we don't really have highlights or juice.
But NCAA programs are starting up soon.
This week, they got the go-ahead by the NCAA to start their preseason a week earlier than usual. Why? Why not?
Because now they're getting paid $500,000, so the schools want them to show up and be prepared. That's why.
Just a whole week in advance, Just really make that investment worth it for that extra week. So, NCAA preseason is going to be starting. I got sent a little screenshot.
And nobody sends me anything.
Of some Instagram comments. And basically, it was this girl commenting on one of Jess Merzik's photos on Instagram. If you are familiar with beach, you might know the name Devin Newberry. She played at UCLA. I think she's trying to make moves internationally. But anyway, she commented on Jess Merzik's post and she was like, "Get this girl on the beach." And Jess Merzik responded with a double winky face. So, my sources, sent me that. So, and the reasoning it was sent was like, maybe she feels like she's falling behind her counterparts that graduated. And maybe she's thinking about it. I don't know. Just speculation.
I mean, we talked about this earlier in the summer when we found out she declined an invitation or didn't want to train with the national team to take a break. And I don't know about you, but I said I think this is a mistake. I mean, everybody has to take care of their own mental well-being, physical well-being, rest. But this was a huge summer, as we saw, for all kinds of young, inexperienced U.S. athletes to get international experience, and she doesn't have that anymore. And I think this might cost her if she wanted to play internationally indoor, because it's going to get real after this, both for the players and for the coaching staff. So beach is maybe an option.
Well, I have been following the signings for different people in the Italian market. I've kind of been following the Turkish, Japanese. I have not seen her name come up anywhere, so I'm assuming she's going back to Love. If I missed something, let me know. But I have not seen her name come up anywhere. So maybe it's back to Love. Anyway, here I am. I'm like, we don't have any gossip, but listen to this.
Tracks.
So there's that. But as I said, this episode is all about the women's Final 8. Little recap. We're not going to dive into every match in detail, but we will talk them through, So why don't we get started with that? Quarterfinal matchups. So match number 1, we had Italy versus USA. There was a very interesting kind of question brought up on the YouTube channel that pertains to this match. So I kind of want to address it now.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I read it, I was like, this is very interesting. And I'm curious how many people's perspective are similar, because I had a very different reaction to this match. So let's read the comment. I'm curious how many people or what other people thought about this match. And I'm assuming people are not going to agree with me on this.
I'm very curious, actually. So this person sent a comment on the YouTube channel, and they said, I thought the gold medal rematch, Italy versus USA, was closer than the 3-0 score would suggest. The deciding factor every set, rather than the pure talent gap I expected, were unforced errors and effort. The USA had so many uncontested swings they sent way wide or long. Italy rarely. USA never made the effort to dive for tips. Italy rarely seemed to give up a point off a tip. They were diving, going to a knee, making sure to follow up with a solid set to avoid sending free balls over. Would you attribute this to coaching, experience, or was that a mark of how wide the skill was? Am I wrong in thinking that it didn't seem like the US was not out of their depth had they tightened things up a little bit? I'm not saying they're on the same footing, but they're not leagues apart. So I will say the US had a lead in every set.
Yes.
In the first set, they were up like 10-7, I want to say. Granted, a little early, but that got gone real fast. 10-7, 10-10, snip, snap. Okay. Second set, I feel like they pushed it a little further. They had a slight lead, like 16-14 maybe, something like that. Gone. But the biggest one, and this lead extended even deeper into the set, was set 3. They were up like 22-18, and they could not get it together, and they lost in overtime. So they did have a lead in every set, pissed it away in every set. What are your thoughts?
My original thought watching Italy in this match was they are so confident that they're going to win that nobody's really engaged in the match. That was my first kind of take watching the team. They were laughing when balls hit the floor. They were coming together. It honestly, the feeling watching that team, having watched them over the 3 weeks, was that they knew they were going to win and they could kind of just coast.
They were very relaxed. The demeanor on the court was very relaxed.
And specifically for Aganu. And so what people saw was Aganu tipping a whole bunch of balls. I think one thing that is missed is that this was, to me, very clearly an Italian game plan on how to score on them. Yeah. So if you look at the difference in how the US and Italy play defense, my take is the US has a game plan for an individual player. So if they set this player, we're going to set up here. These are your responsibilities. This is how you're going to play defense. What I saw was the ball go back to the right side. Everybody got into position. Aganu saw where they were and knew that she could score tipping the ball where they weren't. And they weren't fast enough or making reads to adjust to that. So you would see Sarah Franklin slide over in 6 because they were playing her for the cross court. Lexi would stay back to dig the line. She would tip the ball right into the middle of the court, knowing where everybody was. They would adjust. Sarah would still shift over. Lexi would come in for short. She would push the ball straight over her head into the corner. She was toying with them, and the defense was moving early enough that she could see where the open holes were. And the left sides did that as well on several occasions. Now, if you watch Italy play defense, they play a rotational style defense. So given what rotation the US is in, they have a very specific serving strategy. They're either jamming up a route or trying to take a player away. They have, if the ball gets set out to the left side and it's a fast set versus an inside set, they're going to play defense this way. And their 6 is actively reading the situation and filling in the gaps based on how their block is set up. It works very well in coordination, and the U.S. just plays one style and everybody does their own job. I think there is a huge gap there in their ability to play defense.
I mean, Italy, there's a huge gap between Italy and everybody, how they play team defense.
Totally fair.
I think. Japan might be the exception to that, but Italy's team block defense is
spectacular.
Elite. I find this comment interesting because at this level, I mean, everybody's a good volleyball player. I know based on some of my feedback, you guys probably think I don't think that. I do. Everybody at this level, if you have made it to this level, you are a good volleyball player. The difference is understanding how to make adjustments. The difference is mindset, mentality. When the game is tight, do you tighten up? Do you make smart swings? Do you go for it? Do you have the confidence? Have you been in situations like this enough that you are able to maintain aggression? There's so many factors that come involved. So a skill gap, like I think individually, when you look at players at this level, the skill gaps aren't huge. The things that differentiate teams that are top and teams that aren't are cohesion, team systems, game plans, adjustments, like I said, mindset, mentality, confidence. And Italy blows the US out of the water in every single one of those, quite frankly. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with it. It's just like, okay, for me in that situation, if I was the US, and the thing is, even when Aganu was swinging, she was just reaching high and snapping like 60, 70% to the openings. You didn't see her go up and unload on anything. She was going up, reaching high, snapping to corners or seams, or she was tipping. And quite frankly, the U.S. didn't even do anything to stop it.
The only adjustment we saw was in the third set. Eric Sullivan said, we can't let another tip hit the ground. Like, I'm not even sure he knew what was happening in the moment, because that feedback is she's putting the ball where our defenders aren't. Like, it's not about them not trying. It's about them not being in a position or understanding that she's waiting for them to move to look for the spot. But
here's how I would have defended it. And it may have been effective for a few points, and then Italy would have adjusted, and then you adjust back. But in this scenario, what I would have done, Egonu, she swings high and deep. As I said, seams and corners generally. When she does attempt a sharp angle, that is usually where you see her make her most errors, is attacking the sharp cross-court angle. So I would bring the off blocker under to get the tip. I would play position 6 neutral, middle of the court. The libero digs down the line, and then the position 1 digger play like near the sideline, but like in your normal position. Force her to hit the sharp angle and go to that sharp angle. Because then it's just like, nobody think about the tip. Off blocker, you are covering the tip. It is your job.
And they run the pipe well enough that they still have an option back there if the off attacker can't attack.
Then if she starts throwing it, a tip in the sharp angle, or she starts going and stroking a sharp angle, then you can move that digger back and make a slight adjustment. But you saw both players going under sometimes. You saw neither one going sometimes. And it's just, it was a disaster.
You have to give her a different look. You can't just set up the same way on her all the time and expect that she's not going to figure it out.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's great to have a lead early in a set. It's great to have a lead in the middle of the set, but good teams make adjustments. Good teams figure it out. So that's why I think that there is a massive gap between the two teams.
USA is out. If we look towards World Championships, given what you saw from them, give me 2 things that you think they're going to be working on in preparation, and do you think we can expect a better result from them come Worlds?
Honestly, I feel like maybe 1.5 attackers connect well with Jordan Poulter right now. That is a problem. Avery Skinner is in a good rhythm with her, and Dana Retke, when she runs in front of Poulter, good connection. Everybody else is struggling with that speed. So they need to figure that out.
Outside of the pipe, I think she runs the pipe well.
The pipe runs well with pretty much everybody. You're right. But front row,
yeah,
you see everybody struggling except Avery Skinner and Retke in front. I also think they need to work on their defensive system and their passing. So I said basically everything. Great.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is I'm making an assumption that the coaches are going to get a good system in place for teams and that they'll be prepared. So that's one thing. Their outside hitters, like you said, outside of Avery Skinner, they're in this weird place as a program because they've been so successful hitting high balls, but that's not going to work internationally, and they have to be able.
Not the U.S. program.
The U.S. outsides in general, like coming from college.
But the U.S. has built their legacy in the last 10 years on a fast offense.
Correct.
Yeah.
So none of, like, Madison Skinner struggles, Sarah Franklin struggles with those
She
fast
started
balls.
getting a little bit better, I think. She started figuring it out a bit.
But you even saw when the ball comes fast, she can cut out off and hit angle, but she makes errors down the line. So you saw Italy make an adjustment. We're going to block her angle. We're going to leave her the line. She made some errors. Like, she has to find a way to be able to hit those fast sets down the line as well. So they need to keep sticking with it, because if they don't iron out a faster offense, they're not going to be successful. So how long does that take? Can they figure it out before Worlds? Is it going to be, next VNL? But that's something they need to iron out, because they need both Maddie Skinner and Sarah Franklin to be able to score points on the outsides, because their middles right now just aren't super offensive. They're not generating a ton of points. They're blocking pretty well, but they need to score more points in the middle if the outsides aren't going to score.
Not liking Dana Redke on the slide.
I'm
sorry.
Well.
She does not run it well. She is not an M1. Keep her in front of the setter and find somebody who can run a better slide, because it's not effective. She gets under the ball every time. No pace on it. Also, Kalia Lanier came in that match, and
that was a tough spot to put her in.
That was a tough spot to put her in, but she literally got taken out with the first serve. And it was not good.
I think they will make it to the quarters of Worlds. I don't think they'll go further.
Okay, second match was Poland versus China. We saw Poland win that one in 5. Honestly, after the third set, I thought China had it.
Yep.
The 2 of the 3 first sets, they looked dominant. My favorite player of theirs, Wu MJ, was unstoppable. Okay. Poland had to put a good set together in set 2, but after set 3, I was like, China's got this. Wow. Was I wrong? Poland's blocking destroyed them.
Yep.
I almost felt bad for China, honestly. Like, their 2 main attackers in Gong, their opposite, and Wu, the outside, number 1 and number 6, they could not hit past the block. It was bad.
Well, I thought China's inexperience and youth showed in that moment. I thought their setter, who I thought has done a fantastic job all VNL, started getting a little trigger happy to the outsides, didn't run the middle as much, didn't run the pipe as much, so the middles for Poland could close, and it just kind of spiraled from there.
Once things started going, the setter became so predictable. Like, her patterns became predictable.
Yeah.
Like, she got pulled in both of the last sets, and she just looked a little overwhelmed.
Yeah. Which, again, she's 16.
Yeah.
So to be expected on that. But China just couldn't right the ship. And this is the downfall or the issue with having such a young team and not a ton of leadership in that place, is they couldn't. Again, you're playing in Poland. It's loud. They're pushing back. Those were youthful mistakes or kind of learning experiences for me watching China play, and Poland, to their credit, stuck with it, and their block made the difference.
Well, I think Damaske came in off the bench in set 4, made a big difference for Poland.
I really
Stysiak got taken out with the double sub a whole bunch, and the other right side did a great job when she came in, both blocking and offensively. Poland got it together. Like, we can't say it was all, like, their blocking was amazing. They kept China out of system to make their setter predictable.
Yeah.
So their serving stepped up. And then the bench players who came in for Poland did their job.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they did a straight up setter swap in the 4th set that kind of got everything going.
Grabka came in.
Yeah. Her and Damaske kind of brought a different energy to the floor, and they went from there. I also thought their young left side, number 15, I can't pronounce her name.
Starts with a C.
Yeah. So I apologize, but my Polish isn't great. But I was really impressed with her in this final VNL. I thought she played well all the way through. So it was an entertaining game, kind of back and forth. You saw some young mistakes. You saw Poland come back. I wasn't sure how they were going to deal with the pressure of the home crowd going to 5. It was good. With China being eliminated in this round, do you see them bringing a few more experienced athletes to Worlds, or do you think China has decided this is pretty much their Olympic roster and they're gonna learn and they're gonna go through with these players?
I mean, the Worlds rosters have been announced. I would be lying if I said that I dove into all of them. I haven't. This may be out there already. I wonder if Zhu Ting will make an appearance. The middle who was playing for Vakif Bank last season, I feel like she's a little older. I feel like she's probably done. I think that, they have nothing to be ashamed of. I think continuing to build this group is worth it. Yeah. I don't know.
I would say China, for me, is one of the most unpredictable teams for Worlds. If they bring in a couple veteran pieces or, they learn their lesson and their youth show up and compete really well, they could have won that Poland match.
Yeah.
So, I don't really have a feel for how they're going to do at Worlds, but I think they're a team to watch.
The third quarterfinal saw Japan beating Turkey in 5. We were talking about, a couple weeks ago, whose strengths would surpass the other's weaknesses. And, I think Japan did a really good job of getting Karakurt out of the game early. A big thing for that matchup is the physicality and the height mismatches at the net. So removing the physical presence of Karakurt at the net so early, I think worked in Japan's favor.
That was the only way they were going to end up beating Turkey.
But the other thing that I was thinking, Erkek, the smaller left side who came in for her, I kind of feel like that worked in Turkey's favor because as a smaller hitter, it's so much easier to find a smaller block. And she did a great job, I thought, finding the Japanese block's hands and working the ball. Whereas when you're bigger, it's hard to find the block when you're above it. Mind you, hitting over a block is always a good alternative. But I think Erkek came in because against any other team, it might have not gone so well for her because of the size mismatch. But her having to come in against Japan was good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the same issues we've seen with Turkey all through this tournament. Passing was an issue. Emotional, executional stability is an issue for them. Like you said, they have some smaller left sides who are ball control skilled, which is why I think it was a game when Karakurt came out. But they're just not able to put a full match together. They play in spurts. They do things really well. But there's very little consistency that happens with that team. And I don't know what the remedy for that is.
I mean, we've been saying at all VNL, you in particular, that they are too volatile. They're either incredible or they just cannot figure it out. And, we saw the young right side come in to replace Vargas on some double sub situations. They were trying everything, but, it was a good game. For sure. And we expected it to be a good game. We expected it to be close.
And they could have won.
Yeah. 15-9 in the fifth. It was not close in the fifth, but there were definitely opportunities. Japan found a way.
Yeah. And I don't think Japan gets enough credit. So if you watch international volleyball, you always are Japan is so good defensively, they don't give up. It's almost a foregone conclusion that you just assume that they do that, which is fair. They've earned that reputation. But I don't think people realize how much work and effort that takes. And they have to play that way every match. They don't ever have an easy out because they don't have a Vargas. They don't have an Aganu. They have players who can score, but you don't have an out-of-system genius or somebody you can rely on. They have to be so good all the time. And it's just impressive to watch them be able to do that. They just push teams and wear teams down to 5, and you have to be on to beat them.
I will say for Japan, Wada kind of dropped off for me after week 2. And I thought that she struggled to find consistency this week. I think life would have been much easier for Yoshino and Ishikawa had Wada been able to show up the way she did in week 1. And obviously, teams were more prepared for her after her incredible performances early. but a lot of the load was put on Ishikawa and Yoshino. And being lined up with some of those massive blocks was not great.
I mean, and this is typical, right? You get some film on somebody, you can prepare for them. Not that she hasn't played, but she was a star centerpiece, so defenses were focused on her. Japan, in my opinion, needs to own the middle of the court a little bit more, moving their middles around, creating seams and blocks, running the pipe. To me, that's their key to success. And they don't physically win those matchups because other middles are large, but they need to find a way to hold those blockers to make life a little bit easier on their outside hitters. What do you think about Turkey going into Worlds? Do you think they will find a little team magic, or are we going to see the same Turkey we saw in the VNL?
I mean, I said something similar about the US and Italy is like at this level, a lot of success comes down to connection, mentality, mindset, confidence, attitude. And Turkey is a good, skilled team. They have the pieces, but the question mark with them always comes down to consistency and attitude. Roll the dice, see what happens.
Yeah, I'd be curious to watch Turkey and the U.S. play and to see that matchup because, I agree with you. I think they're struggling with similar things, and it will be interesting to see how they try and find their own individual solutions.
Like, Turkey is the most inconsistent top team.
Correct.
Every other team, you know what you're getting, you know what to expect, and if it doesn't go that way, you're almost surprised. Turkey is for sure the most volatile, which is a very dangerous place to be, I think.
Well, I feel when you play Turkey, your mentality is if we can push them to 4 or 5 sets, we'll beat them because they can't play that long. Turkey is capable of winning matches against the top teams if they could play their best volleyball for 3 sets straight. They just haven't been able to do it.
Okay, I don't have much to say about this last quarterfinal. Brazil just laid a beat down to Germany, 3 straight.
Germany was just outclassed. They did a very good job in qualifying for the final, but they're just out of their depth against these teams.
Yeah. And, they pushed Brazil to 5 in week 1. Brazil didn't have the same roster that they came to the finals with. They obviously studied that game film. It was not even close to the same match as the first time they met up. Like, I don't have much to say other than like Brazil was just better.
They came to play, and Germany needs to be happy with their performance.
All right, on to the semifinals. Semifinal number 1 had Italy beating Poland 3 straight.
As Italy will do to teams. Poland, Steciak, who played well in the quarterfinals, could not buy a point against the big block and the controlled defense. Poland just couldn't generate points against Italy.
They couldn't dig anything either.
Wow.
The thing that got me, like, first of all, Italy, you could tell they decided to all show up. They were dialed in this match. They're very good. And
that's what I kind of said. Like, if you look at the team who came out against the U.S. versus Poland, it was a totally different.
Oh, they were much more focused, for sure. But Poland's defensive system, I am sorry, Steciak is a liability. This girl goes under for tips and doesn't dig the tip. Like, what are you doing under there then? Okay? And when you do hit the floor, you don't get up until the ball's already coming back after going over and coming back. So, Italy was just having a field day because Steciak is a liability for the tips, so they send her up for tips, and then they're like, but she's not going to dig any, so let's bring our left side blocker under for tips too, and you know what? Let's try to dig the backcourt with 2 people. It's not going to work.
Well, and this is where
you might as well just stick Steciak back there to just get hit by the ball and just have the left side dig tips and just balance it.
This is where I think Italy right now is head and shoulders above everybody else. You see teams coming in with defensive game plans to attack certain players or rotations. Italy's coming in with a defensive game plan and then a very specific offensive game plan to just rip teams' defenses apart where they have weaknesses, and they will do it over and over and over again until you make an adjustment. And it's automatic, and it's quite frankly impressive to watch.
Yeah.
You watch most teams tip to get out of trouble. Italy tips to expose your defense, and then when you adjust, they hammer balls at you.
Or it's just like, I'm going to tip here because I think it's my best opportunity to get a point. But if not, we know where you're going to set out of this, and our defense is better than yours, so we'll just get another chance.
Also, their out-of-system setting for every player on their team is spectacular. They get a defensive touch. They're getting a good swing out of it.
Every player on
every
the court
player
can set out of system.
Poland, again, had a good tournament, but they're just outclassed, quite frankly, in every position.
And
against Italy.
Lavarini, who coaches Poland, coached and coaches Egonu, Oro, Danesi, Silla, all at Milano. I mean, obviously not this year with some players leaving, but
he knows
them.
Yeah, and they couldn't stop them. And, I mean, Poland, their players just don't match up one-on-one with Italy's.
I mean, Poland's a great blocking team, 100%. Don't get me wrong, but, like, Italy is good enough and experienced enough that, sure, yeah, they'll get blocked a few times, but they understand the assignment and what their get-out-of-trouble options are, should it come down to it.
Yeah.
Like, the players will get blocked when they decide to take swings, but they aren't going to allow that to continuously happen in the way that you saw the very young Chinese team that happened to them.
Correct. Yeah, it wasn't close.
No, it was not. Brazil versus Japan, however, was very close. That one went 5.
I was a little nervous my prediction wasn't going to come true.
So was I. What did you think the biggest difference was in that match?
As to why Brazil won?
Yeah, I have an idea. Don't look at my...
I just think that when it came down to it, Brazil's hitters are just a little more physical than Japan can handle from a blocking standpoint. They put Brazil in trouble, and they dug balls and they extended rallies. But normally when you watch Japan play defense, they're getting attacks out of their defense. And against Brazil, it was overdig or free ball came over. They were always playing slightly on the edge of out of control defensively, and they just couldn't hang for 5 sets with their physicality. You're looking at me like you disagree with me. Tell me.
My reasons are different, for sure. Number 1, okay, there's a few changes that happened on the Brazil side that I think contributed to pushing them over the edge. But there's one thing on Japan's side that I think was their shortcoming. The changes that Brazil made. First of all, they started Roberta.
Well, that was a mistake.
Who had been coming in with a double sub and like played on and off throughout VNL, but Macris got you there. So I was surprised to see Roberta on the court so much. She was setting a lot of balls tight.
I don't think she played well this week, personally, but...
They brought Macris in, I want to say, what, set
3,
4,
yeah,
something. So that was a big difference. Secondly, I thought Julia Bergman struggled for the majority of the match and then had the set of her life in set 5.
Yep.
So Bergman had a tough time getting going, like defensively, passing wise, attacking, like makes it a little predictable. And Brazil's middles aren't the most offensive out there. They're not like the Italian middles who are used as part of the regular flow. Julia gets set a lot more than Gianna does, but so a lot of the load fell on Gubby.
Yeah.
But Macris and Bergman stepping up in the 5th, I think, was a difference maker for Brazil. Japan did not run the middle. And again, the Brazilian middles are very good blockers. I would say that they are more blocking middles than offensive middles. They weren't threatened by Japan's middles at all, which made it very easy to put a massive wall up in front of the undersized attackers that Japan has. I just kept being like, just run the middle, even if it doesn't score, just to keep them thinking. Like, and then if you run the middle, you can incorporate the pipe over top. But like, it was just very predictable because they were refusing. It was almost like they were scared to run their middles into those blocks.
Yeah, it almost seems Japan has accepted the fact that they're mismatched on the outside and trust them to find hands and to do that, but they don't have the same faith in their middles, which, I mean, may or may not be accurate, but as the match goes on and your style is to grind teams down in 5 sets, like, you have to hold that middle some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, we talked about it again on the previous team they played. But you have to give your outside some seams, and by the end, Brazil's block was just solid. Yeah, it's a great observation. I don't know. Brazil's a pretty good ball control team. I'm not sure Japan could have served, like, if they even served that much better. They already made a bunch of errors in that match. Like, they were trying to be aggressive. They're skilled. They're very good. They push teams, but Brazil is one of the top teams in the world. You have to do a little bit more than just forcing teams to beat you. Where Turkey made mistakes against them, Brazil doesn't make those same mistakes. And Japan they need to find a way to earn a few more points against those top teams. All right, what were your thoughts on the bronze medal match?
So the bronze medal match saw Poland beating Japan 3-1. Going into that, I honestly thought Japan was going to take it.
Agreed.
Poland continued their blocking, that we've saw throughout. They were very good blocking team. I think at one point they said they were outblocking Japan 12-2. They did play earlier in VNL, and they outblocked Japan 16-4, and Japan won. I believe that was in week 3. But the biggest difference in the Japanese performance for me from the semi to the bronze was that they were making a concerted effort to run the middle.
Yeah.
And I think it was effective. It elicited the response that I thought it was going to get, but the outsides in general, were having trouble putting the ball away.
It looked like they had run out of gas. They played, those 3 in particular, played a lot of volleyball, got set a whole bunch of balls, and it just looked like they didn't have the juice to finish the match.
I mean, Japan's passing was good. Their defense was good. I liked how they were running the middle to try to open things up better. Their serving was not as effective. They missed way too many serves, I think, and that needs to be like a staple for them. It is a staple for them. So I think their serving kind of killed them a bit. And again, WADA just didn't do much.
Yeah.
And as you said, the outsides in general struggled.
Yeah. And Stysiak, when she doesn't feel like she's threatened with the block, she was unloading. She scored a ton of points in that match. She had a good game. And Japan just didn't have an answer for her. Poland's middle also played very well.
Korneluk?
Yeah, Korneluk. That was a mismatch. And Poland set her quite a bit, and Japan couldn't.
Stysiak, massive mismatch.
Yeah.
Korneluk, again, we're talking 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah, I think they said 30 centimeters difference in a couple of the players.
These girls were not threatened, and
they played like it.
Yeah, they played well. They scored well. They blocked well. The outsides having that kind of block in front of them, it was not pretty. I thought Japan would be able to break down Poland's serve receive and kind of like work around defensively, but it didn't happen. And
Poland subbed in a few different left sides to kind of mix that up, find a passing rhythm, kind of negate that. And they did a good job of it. And again, like you said, I think Japan made a whole bunch of errors from the baseline in that match. So Poland on home soil brings home a medal. I think that's their 3rd bronze in a row.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so looking ahead to Worlds for both these teams, thoughts on Japan, what they can do? Do you think we'll see anything different?
I mean, I think Japan has their system.
Yeah.
Their system, when they're executing it, works for them. I do think they need to continue to push the middle, if not for scoring, just to eventually be a good decoy.
Yeah.
To be able to run the pipe over the top, get people to stay a little longer, just like make life easier for your outsides. So I would push the middle discussion, and yeah, they need to apply that service pressure that we're used to seeing from them that just didn't come through in the same way that it usually does. I love that they were using 2 liberos.
Yeah.
Kojima was the passing libero, Fukunomi was the defensive one. I think that was a really good system for them. So I would like to see them continue that.
Yeah, and I think that Worlds, given time to rest their players, their outsides will be a little more fresh. It kind of lends itself to their 5-set grinding style. I think they'll be, a little bit more, they'll have a higher level of execution on the outside for Worlds, as opposed to, I think you'll see closer to week 1 performance versus finals performance from Japan. What about on the Poland side?
Poland, you need to figure out what you're going to do with Stysiak defensively. Are you going to just give up the tips and have her under there? Do you want her back and just like make your off blocker work to just get all the tips? Like, you need to do something with her or figure out how to do something with her defensively, because as it is right now, it's like a massive liability and teams are just going at her whenever they need a point and they're scoring like 90% of the time.
Well, and then along with those defensive liabilities against big blocks, she's not nearly as effective.
No.
So she's going to need, if Poland's going to take a step, she needs to find a way to elevate her performance on both sides of the ball.
Well, because I think their left sides played well
Yep.
as a group. Even the ones when they had to make substitutions, I think the left sides in general played well. I think the middles did their job. As a team, their blocking was very good.
They could shore up their defensive coverage around their block. I know Stysiak is a big issue with that, but I think their left sides could do a little better job reading and filling in some of those positions situationally. I think that their M2 needs to be a little more offensive. I think that would help as well. And they don't generally run a pipe.
No.
So if they could run a little more back row and maybe alleviate some of the pressure on Stysiak, I think they're close. I think their adjustments are within reach and not kind of pie in the sky. So I'm going to be curious to see what they bring to Worlds. Hit me with your thoughts on the final.
To be honest, I don't think either team played their best. What was that face for?
I was going to start with a similar comment. That game was won by the substitution depth, by the team depth, because I didn't think either Brazilian setter set very well, so they were in trouble. Brazil rotated through 3 different opposites.
Their right sides could not get it together.
Their middles blocked well. Julia blocked well, but they're not offensive.
Gianna blocked. Both of them blocked well. Julia was scoring.
Props to her too. She set a record for VNL, or tied the record for most blocks. So congratulations. That was kind of cool to see. So she played well.
I think the depth comment you made is apt.
For Italy, we saw Oro get subbed out as well. We saw
DeGrati got injured.
We saw DeGrati get injured. I mean, Italy's middles are just so good. It's almost not fair. But I love
how they can switch up the depth of their attack.
Yeah.
They have really good angles, but they're also very good at hitting deep. And you don't often see middles searching for those deep swings. And
especially off the net. Like when the pass is around the attack line, Far does a great job of being available and being able to hit the deep corners in that spot.
And it's a discussion. Velasco does a good job of reminding them of doing that.
And then, we saw Aganu get taken out and Antropova. That 1-2 combo on the right side for Italy, just the thing about watching Italy play is nobody has to be all world for them to win. If you look at teams, you look at Brazil, for example. Now, again, I understand they're dealing with an injury, but if Rosa Maria is not playing well, makes it really hard for Brazil to win. Gebi always plays well, pretty much.
Gebi is very consistent.
But, they need one other person. Bergman struggled a little bit, then played well. She was a little inconsistent. She's pretty good down the stretch. But
Bergman played better in the final than she did in the semi, I thought.
Yeah, I thought she got better as the match went on.
But with a team like Italy, whose game plans are tight, if you're filtering through 3 right sides and your middles aren't a super threat offensively, your left sides are having the worst night of their lives, because you're either facing Antropova and Danese, or you're facing Agonu and Far. It's just not good.
And Oro's no slouch
and
as a blocker
good blocker
either.
as a setter.
So For me, I thought the Brazilian setting killed them. Like Macris at the start could not find the middle. Flat out missed on a couple ones. When Roberta came out, she sewered the left sides with a bunch of balls that were dragging onto the net right into the block.
Same. Rosa Maria was struggling getting to some tight sets too.
Yeah. So it wasn't a clean match. But again, for me, Italy's ability to rotate players in and not have their level drop as much as Brazil was the difference. And the middles. We
saw both 2 right sides come in, 2 setters, 4 different left sides. The only players that stayed true the whole match were the middles and the libero. Like Degrati went out in set 2. Nervini had to come in, a little 21-year-old. Then Giovannini came in to serve for Sila and play back row sometimes. And Tropova came in to replace Egonu when
potentially
Egonu
better than Egonu
dropped off a little. Like, it's just they keep coming.
Yeah.
You get rid of one, you get somebody off the court, and it's like, well, we've got an equal replacement coming in right now, so good luck.
Yeah. Italy can just play at 85, 90% with all of their players on their bench, and other teams find that hard to match. Their level just drops when they've got to pull some players off. And, again, Gabi was good, as she always is.
Bergman did fine. I think the middles blocked well. They scored when they were given a good ball. Neither team played their absolute best.
Italy's B game is better than Brazil's B game, especially with Anna Cristina being injured.
Yeah. And I mean, they did a good job filling in for Anna Cristina. Those 2 teams are the deepest teams in the world, I think.
And the best.
And they're just the best. Would Anna Cristina have made a difference? Yeah, absolutely. But
that's the reality of sport.
Yeah.
And you might not have her back for Worlds, and Italy might not have Degrati back. So we don't know what the injury was at the time of this recording. We hope she's okay, but she had surgery on that knee pre-Paris, so hopefully it's not a re-injury.
But honestly, I think these 2 teams are the best teams in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a rematch at Worlds.
Agreed.
Who knows?
As long as pool play doesn't get messed up and they meet in the semis, I think these 2 teams have separated themselves. Like there's a 1A, 1B here, and then the next grouping of teams, in my opinion.
Regardless, I think, the matches were fun to watch. There were a couple blowouts that I was like, ooh, yikes. But from top to bottom this week, I think the games were really good. I love Velasco's feedback during timeouts to his team. I love his tactics. I love his instruction of the adjustments that they're making.
Their staff is so good. Barbolini is your assistant.
I love their timeouts. I love listening to them. So yeah, it was fun. Huge congrats to Italy. Let's see how long they can keep this streak going, because that is impressive.
I mean, they're pushing for the Olympic gold, VNL gold back-to-back, and a Worlds gold.
100%. Yeah, you're going for that trifecta.
Worlds will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, our focus today was obviously VNL finals, all things VNL finals. So we've got a bit of a roster of questions from our listeners today, because we wanted to wrap up VNL. We wanted to wrap up the women's side of things. So I'm kind of throwing a bunch out there. I'm going to give you a heads up. The majority of these questions are about the Americans. There are some that aren't, but the questions that are submitted are most of them are about the U.S. So in the future, if you have a question, be sure to submit it and we will answer it about your team. So question 1 is, what happens to the relegated teams and how do they get back to VNL?
So the international ranking system is the same for all teams, whether you participate in the VNL or not. So VNL is the top level, and then there are regional competitions. So you have like the CEV, which is like the European league where all the Europe teams compete, and you can still earn international points. You have, the division in Asia, you have one in North America. If you get relegated from VNL, you go back to your regional competitions and they host the same tournaments and you aggregate points for wins, same way you do in VNL. And then the team that has the most internationally, kind of sitting below the VNL threshold, comes in the next year and the bottom team goes down. So that's how it works.
So the relegated teams cannot participate in the 2026 version of VNL. So even if they do have the highest world ranking going into 2026, like aside from the top teams, they have to wait till the next year. But for example, like the US goes and plays Norseca. So let's say like Puerto Rico beats the US. It doesn't take into account if it's like the B team or not. Norseca Championships
Is worth points.
So regardless of who the US sends, if like a Puerto Rico beats them, Puerto Rico, they would gain a ton of points. Whereas like in the Asian Championship, China sends a team. So if South Korea beats China, they will get a ton of points. So there are opportunities to do that. Question 2. Do you think Italy should consider moving Egonu or Antropova to outside like Turkey did with Karakurt when Vargas joined? It seems like a waste to have either of those opposites sitting on the bench. It is a waste to have them on the bench, but look at wow. They are so good as a like duo.
Well, so two things. One is, sometimes Egonu looks a little unmotivated to play. Disengaged. So having Antropova to come in is huge to kind of keep that balanced. When they have the ability to use the double sub and have 9 rotations with a front row right side, I think that gives them a huge advantage in matches to like separate by a few points, kind of leading into that 20 mark of sets. And the other thing is their middles are so effective that you need to be able to pass the ball. And I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Antropova and Egonu don't pass as well as the combination of Degrati and Silla and the kids that they've got coming up. So they don't need to. And having 2 really good opposites allows you some flexibility to do some things, which is one of the reasons they're so consistent.
I can't see them making a change. Like Karakurt, it took her a while to figure out how to pass. And even though she has gotten so much better at passing, it's just not the same level as the top left sides that you see. And I feel like it might be a similar situation.
Yeah, but with Turkey, their left sides don't score as well as Italy. So you kind of needed a little more firepower, which is why they did that, in my opinion.
Question 3, why does Avery seem like such a complete player compared to Madison? Does this pertain to a past viewer question about Maddie changing back and forth from opposite to outside?
Avery has more experience. She's played internationally
overseas.
I
will say, this person also alluded to the fact that even when they were in college and playing the same position, Avery seemed like the more complete player. Maybe she just is.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe her perception of the ball and her ability to control her body is a little bit better, so she's innately a better passer. Like, I'm assuming that this question is coming down to passing and ball control, because Maddie's a great attacker. I think Maddie jumps better than Avery does.
Maddie gets off the ground better than Avery does. I think she has potential to be a better attacker.
Yeah.
I just feel like it comes down to like their innate skill sets.
Yeah.
I think Avery is just a better ball control player, whereas Madison is a little more physical.
And probably their playing experience. Like, I don't know what Maddie played in club or leading in, but she's played opposite, so she's not passing and not expected to play defense the same way Avery is. Like, that experience matters.
Well, the thing is like if you go into my experience, my experience is different, but the college game has evolved and college training has evolved. If you don't go into college with the skill set already, the coaches don't spend a ton of time trying to teach it to you. So it's like, maybe she was a late bloomer passing or defensively or something, but then when she got to her school, they were just like, let's just maximize your strength and we can hide your weaknesses. Like,
yeah. I got games to win.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, question 4. How do you think the Love players looked during VNL compared to the Love season? Who adjusted and who didn't?
Oh, what an interesting question. Well, we can't say anything about Lexi Rodriguez because she didn't play in Love.
She didn't even get a chance to play.
So there's that one.
Okay, let's Sarah Franklin.
Did better than I thought she would. I did not think she would be able to pass as well as she did. Now, she didn't pass amazing, but she was better than I expected. So kudos to her. She had some matches where she scored very well and some where she struggled, to be expected.
I think she needs to learn how to hit the line.
Well, so what I was going to say is now that teams have seen her play, the benchmark for me will be how she adjusts to those top teams adjusting to her. She did better than I thought she was originally, and now you've been able to get away doing a couple things super well in the leagues that you've played in. How will you adjust to being countered? But overall, I think better than I expected from Sarah Franklin.
What about Eggleston?
I think she did about as well as she seemed the same. She did the same things that she did in Love. I don't think she's it for the U.S. on the left side internationally.
Sage?
She was, again, they're fine. They're good volleyball players. I don't think she's making the jump.
I don't think she made any adjustments. I think she's set fine.
She set the high balls that the Texas players like to hit, and they're comfortable with her, but she doesn't run an international style offense for me. And that's not to say she's not capable, but I didn't see it. And I don't know if they're going to put the time in to get her to change it.
I don't think Maddie really adjusted. She had a couple really good matches, but if you take the VNL experience as a whole, I feel like she did what she always does, which is jump and just hit straight where she's facing.
Maddie needs to learn to hit a fast ball in different places.
And she needs to learn to hit away from her body, hit some angles. Like you can tell where she's going to hit.
She relied a lot on being higher than blockers and throwing the ball to the ground when she was feeling uncomfortable. And she rotates her shoulder on the right side and kind of pushes the ball to the sideline, which makes it inconsistent, and she makes errors in those situations.
She doesn't hit outside the body or use the wrist at all, and you can see her trying to swing her hips around, and that's when she's making errors.
I didn't see much adjustment from her.
I can say the same thing about Molly McCage. But I did think IG'd was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought she blocked well. There were a couple matches where they got her going. She needs to find a way to be more offensive. Like the U.S.'s middles have to contribute offensively.
But I think when they set her, she scores.
Yeah.
They just don't often. I don't think anybody really made adjustments. Franklin was starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
And IG'd. But other than that, yeah. Question 5. Did any of the snubbed U.S. players like Simone Lee, Elena Scott, Taylor Bannister, Kami Miner, etc. expose cracks in the final roster choices by USA, or did Sullivan's decisions seem justified?
I mean, I don't think any of those players are moving the needle. I mean, I thought, my thoughts on Elena Scott, but, Hens was decent when she played. Like, not great, but decent. Like, I'm not sure Elena Scott would have done much better than that. I don't think, you're giving players who you think have a higher upside the chance to see what they have, and I'm not sure any of these players are that much better than who they brought or who they gave chances to.
I wonder about Kami Miner. Not that she was snubbed. I understand that Stanford's school schedule didn't allow them to make the first week. I think I still would have put her on the roster for the later weeks, so that's just me. I think it would have been worth a try with her. I definitely think Kami Miner would have done better than LMA Powell.
Yeah, I agree. But she's not going to be better than Poulter. And
but Poulter wasn't connecting with anybody.
I very much doubt that any of the setters that they brought other than Poulter to VNL will be a starting setter when the Olympics roll around in 2028. Maybe Kami can do that depending on how her pro seasons go. You almost need Poulter to figure it out with those hitters.
I wonder how Sammy Francis would have done.
Yeah.
I think she would have run a slide better than we saw.
Agreed. I think there's room for a couple other middles to come in. We talked about Jackson. We talked about Sammy Francis.
Ogbagu's on the world's list.
Yeah. But. So I thought Dana is good defensively. She's
a good blocker.
She's a good blocker.
She moves well, especially for middle on the defensive end. Too.
Yeah, her all-around game is good, but I just think when push comes to shove, if their goal is to win a gold medal in LA, they're going to need some offensive threats from the middle. And can those two generate it, Ajiti and Retke? We'll see. But I think that they're going to have to seriously look at some other offensive options in the middle.
When I think of the snubbed players, do I think any of them would have passed better than what they had? I don't know.
I mean, you can justify, Sullivan can justify his choices. There's not one person you look at and be like, that's just wrong.
Well, I have a couple, but...
I mean, in terms of who you would replace them with. Like, I don't agree with some of the players they brought along to play. I don't think they have necessarily a future, but you can justify them on the roster compared to some of those players mentioned.
Question 6 pertains to Lexi Rodriguez. This listener was basically saying that it seems that she's been struggling. She has not been performing as well as you saw her play at Nebraska, i.e. she's on her heels for balls that get dropped in the middle of the court but are obvious tips. She's not passing as well as usual. What are these players on the other side of the net doing differently that makes her react so slowly or miss the ball completely? This person was basically saying it looks like she's just like not trying, because like sometimes she's not even going for the ball. Why is she playing over hints, and why do her stats look better than when you actually watch the game?
I think that there's an issue of expectation around jumping from college to international. So when you play at the college level, hitters don't have as many angles. They're not hitting the ball as hard. They have fewer tools in their toolbox in terms of the decisions they can make. And so Lexi her decision making revolves around what's capable at that level in the system at Nebraska. You move out and you start hitting, or you start playing defense against hitters like Gabi or really good left sides, as she's digging a lot of those cross-court balls. They hide where they're going to hit for longer. The ball comes a little bit faster. They have angles that you're not used to. So you're starting in positions that you think are covering the angles, and then they're not when the ball comes on you faster. It's just your understanding of the game needs to shift based on your competition, and that takes time. And Lexi set such a high standard for herself in college that if you're watching her expecting the same results, it's just not realistic.
I think the other thing to think about too is the college game from a ball control perspective offers a bit of a luxury, because you often see a back row stacked with defensive specialists. So there's no looking at each other of who's going to take the ball, because all of you are very good at serve receive and at defense. Internationally, because of the substitutions, she's now in the back row with players who aren't defensive specialists. They don't move as well. They maybe don't read the game as well. So you could definitely see a lot of hesitation from Lexi, I thought, on the defensive end, where it was clearly her ball, but she didn't go for it, because I think she's so used to being on the court with 3 highly skilled defensive players. Now it's like, no, you are it. You need to take care of all those things. Again, as Adam said, the college game is much more linear. You're not seeing players go up and like put crazy spin on their serves like sideways, or you're playing against players whose trajectory of their serve is just coming at you so much. I'm not making excuses for her. I agree. The Lexi that you saw in college is not the Lexi you're seeing at USA Volleyball right now. But I think that's to be expected. Why is she playing over hence?
Who did you think was better? Like, if you were going in...
I saw hesitation from both of them defensively, honestly. I thought they both passed pretty well. I mean, compared to everybody else on the team. I think Lexi set herself apart setting.
Lexi's a better setter.
Hence's setting was virtually unhittable whenever she played. So I think that is the reason she was playing. Everything else being equal, I think she put her hitters in a better spot to score in transition more frequently.
I agree with that.
Question 7. How much do you think politics and past relationships are driving Sullivan's obsession with his Texas players? To me, it seems that he has his favorites, but those favorites aren't producing. Will we see a continuation of his Texas players being pushed onto rosters, or will we see new players take over?
I think as a coach, you have a bias towards players you know. You know what you can expect. It's easier to put them in. So I think that I don't think it's necessarily political, but I think there's a level of comfort. You have to remember that he's in a new position as well. So there's that. Everybody is new in this USA roster. I mean, you saw Eggleston start a ton in weeks 1 and 2, and then as we got down the stretch, it was Avery and Sarah playing when it mattered. Like, that is not a Texas thing. That was a performance-based decision. They have a gaping hole at right side, which is totally open for the taking. You saw them rotate through players looking for somebody to start there. Texas has produced a lot of high-level volleyball athletes, so it makes sense that they're being given a chance. Nobody on the USA roster has really separated themselves, in my opinion. So yeah, we joked about it in week 1 and 2 in terms of who got opportunities, but I think that the decisions the staff made were performance related as we saw the VNL go forward.
Well, because I think at the end, Maddie Skinner, was she the only Texas athlete that was playing consistently?
Yeah.
Because we didn't see Sage step on the court at all. McCage lost her travel spot. Eggleston came in as a serving sub. We saw Jarvis lose her spot. I think it definitely maybe started that way, but they dropped off real quick.
Yeah. And like you said, if you have two athletes that are close in ability, you generally take the one you know better because you know how to utilize that player. You know their strengths and their weaknesses. I think that's human nature.
Okay, our final question, you guys. We had a big lineup today.
I love the listener questions.
How do you think the U.S. program evolved during VNL, and do you think it's heading in the right direction?
Well, I don't think it could have gotten any worse from the beginning. So they definitely got better.
Did they?
I mean,
okay.
You need to have perspective in this. Are they good? No. Like, the U.S. is historically competing for medals in VNL in volleyball. They're not close currently. They need to sort out a lot of positions. They need to tighten up as a team.
Their passing got better.
Yeah, fair. Their passing got better.
Their passing got better from week 1 to the end.
They're also missing a couple players who could come back and make a difference. So we'll see what happens with that come Worlds.
They pulled their 6-back defender back a bit.
Yeah, again, they made decisions, but you still have very inexperienced international athletes competing with high-level athletes. And coaches. And so, yes, they made some moves and did some things better in the finals than they did in week 1. Are they competitive? No. Are they moving fast enough to be contenders? TBD. If you made me answer now, I'd say no. They've got a ton of work to do. I don't think it's close yet, but
they need to find a right side.
Correct.
They need to find a middle who can run a slide. Maybe that's going to be bringing Ugbagu back.
They need to connect with a faster offense for their outside hitters. And then they need to understand how to play team defense. Like, there's a lot of... And
make adjustments, but I feel like that's a lot on the coaching staff.
I mean, they need their players to go play overseas against these top players week in and week out. That is, if they stay in this system for leading up to LA, it will not go well.
They need Justine back. I know people have mixed feelings about her. They need Jordan Thompson back. I wonder, why didn't Franti travel at all? Is she still injured? She's
Plummer.
A better passer than... But Plummer is an offense. I don't think Plummer's moving the needle from a passing perspective.
No, she's not, but is she a better attacker than Franklin? So who do you... You need a passing left side to lock it down. You need somebody who can score consistently on the left. You need an out-of-system opposite.
Somebody who can run a slide.
There are missing pieces.
I mean, I think this was a wake-up call, at least I hope it was, for the coaches and the players of what it takes. I honestly feel like because the scores were so close against Italy, it might give them a false sense of how good they are. Because, like, quite frankly, no. I don't think it was close. Italy was coasting.
I really hope they don't look at that Italy game and go, hey, we're a few plays away.
Yeah, we're almost there.
No, because it's just not true. Not.
Thanks so much to everybody who sent in questions. I know we've got a bunch. I've been sitting on some for a while. I've been waiting for like an off week, because some of these are big. So if you submitted a question a while ago and we haven't answered it, it's because I'm sitting on it.
They're still coming.
They're still coming. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that question session today.
All right, we got one more banger week before we start to get into Worlds and the college volleyball again. We're heading into the final week of the men's VNL. Top 8. Quarterfinals are on Wednesday and Thursday again. Similar setup to the women's side. We have the semis on Saturday and the medal matches on Sunday. So if you like the schedule this week, it's coming at you again.
If you're in North America, it's really going to mess you up because they're in China. So the time change, we're probably going to be watching a lot of replays.
So you got to not be on social media. Don't look at any scores. Load up the game right from the app.
Don't look how long the game is. Just don't look at the time thing,
And save all the surprise.
That concludes this week's episode of Volley Talk. There's always something shaking in the volleyball world, and we hope you enjoyed this little fix. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss any updates, and we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Instagram at volleytalk_podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, be sure to reach out to us on Instagram or at info@sarahpavin.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.